Grown black folks talk. How to spend the most important currency you actually have. Now, I'm going to link to this in the description. Uppity Unicorn. Shout out to Uppity Unicorn. Stay on the throne, queen. Um, did a wonderful video about your attention is currency. And she's already covered this topic. In addition, Mocha Mommy has done a video May 23rd, 2021, but I saw it yesterday and said 2022. It's actually from 2021. I'm going to link to both of these videos talking about how some of the stuff that goes on between black men and women has to do with the fact that black women have more social access and black men don't, and that frustrates them. And then since they can't do anything about the black men or the white men for that matter that are denying them social access, they take it out on us. And it goes really deep because while even with this crisis with absent fathers, because you got to have absent fathers for single mothers. An absent father situation means that a little girl can be around a whole bunch of women, mama, grandmama, aunties, cousins. There's a whole bunch of women. And so women, girls can learn how to be a woman and how to live in the world and how to get ahead in the world from the women around her, how to navigate as a woman. Boys, nope. And also, they can, and I'm going to add here something that Mocha Mommy did not say. If you live in a culture where absent fatherhood is supported, so not only is your dad absent, but a lot of his friends and his brothers and sisters are absent, which means you ain't got no uncles. At this point, grandpa may not be there either. I mean, I've worked with families where there's no man present for 3 generations. Because I'm thinking child, father, grandfather, great grandfather, 3. I've worked with children like that. They have to go back to a great grandfather to find a man that stayed. So that's bad for the girls because they never see a man and therefore they never learn that they can afford to trust and respect a man because there was never one around. Well, for the boys, they never see how to become that man. And in a culture that is cool with men just collecting women and conquering them and throwing them to the side and leaving all the STDs and side babies out there that they can. Yes, I said that aloud. Do you need me to repeat it? Leaving all the STDs and side babies that they can. If men condone men in doing this, then they really don't want to be bothered being confronted with the evidence. And you know what the worst evidence is for black men upholding this kind of culture? Remember, black girls at least have the women around them. The worst evidence of this is a generation of lost boys who then also grow up and don't know how to do it. First time they have sex and produce a child, they don't know what to do, so they repeat the cycle. And it goes on. And then their brothers condone them in doing it, and then everybody ignores the evidence. And this means that these boys are lost. I didn't realize this till I put the content of these 2 videos together with something that happened on Prince Petty's show. Shout out, Prince Petty. Um, Prince, Prince Petty did the funniest short today. It's a good channel, y'all. It's definitely Prince Petty is a young man who is doing very thought-provoking content. Is doing very thought-provoking content. But he had a gentleman who felt safe to come on his show to say that the reason that black men come to women's channels and basically act a fool is because they're just trying to get some attention. And as a teacher who has taught a lot of boys, I do know in different settings, I do know that this is a lot of it. So you take a young boy who is absolutely starved for the love he needs, not only by his own father, but in a culture of men that does not want to deal with the evidence that what they're doing is extremely harmful. And so his mother may be exhausted and is connecting with her daughter in most cases in a way that she cannot connect with him. And so boys will act out. I noticed this a great deal in a number of settings. So they're looking for attention. And of course, this isn't every black man, but we do see evidence this is many. I talked with a young man who told me what his young age was like and the ways that he was abused and allowed himself to be abused, desperately looking for what his absent father could not provide him. And if you listen to Dr. T. Hasan Johnson's The Onyx Report, I keep mentioning, and I'm going to link to it in the description of this video, not because you will like it. Most of you will have trouble with the black masculinist position, maybe not as much trouble as the manosphere, but I would say it's manosphere adjacent. But I listen to him when he talks about, and I read the comments when he talks about the plight of men. And I appreciate it when he does say to brothers, we have to get together and fix this ourselves, because this is what needs to be done. But in the meantime, the demand on black women becomes that much greater when these lost boys, and they're not lost because of anything they did. They're in a culture of men that is now 2 or 3 generations deep, that is not interested in engaging with the evidence of the damage that they are doing by being absent fathers. To give you a sense of how big the size of this is, there are approximately 50 million African Americans. Some numbers say 47 million. And of these, there are about 30 million adults, approximately. 18 million black women, highest numbers. 33 million adults, 15 million black men, highest numbers. And among these women, a quarter are single mothers. But that also tells you that approximately that many men are single fathers. You also can see this another way. Black men like to talk about the marriage rate for black women being only 27%. Well, the marriage rate for black men is only 30%. So if you take 30 and you multiply it by 15 and you multiply 27 by 18, you're going to find out something. Those numbers are practically identical. Go do it on your own time. So there's a lot, but that's not stopping anybody from having children. People want to talk about 54% of black men are single and childless. Well, it depends on what age you look at. By the age of, I believe, 50, 80% of living black men have children. Meanwhile, that marriage number stays right down there at 30%. That's the same kind of number talk about, black women only 44% of black women are married. That's up to a certain age. When you extend that age out, you get up to about 75% of black women are married. Fun with numbers. But no matter how you cut that number, we're in trouble. And we have a lot of boys who cannot get what they need from their moms and cannot get what they need from their dads. So where does this tie back into your attention is your currency? This is also why I've been saying for the last this week, I've been on be whatever if it's time to stop talking about it, be about it. If you bout it, you stop giving attention to what does not serve you. When people are acting a fool, you don't need to feed the foolishness. And if you have got to the point that you've given up on black men entirely, and you've given up on the black community entirely, then you need to be putting your attention into some other things. Mocha Mommy does a lot of good suggestions about channels that you can watch to make your YouTube work for you better, to give you some things that you can do to make your algorithm feed you things that are going to help you move on. She does a very good job with that. Because again, your attention is currency. It's like anything else. What you invest in grows. So if you keep paying attention and feeding black men who are behaving foolishly, this affirms them in their foolishness, because your attention is currency. Don't spend it on foolishness. And by the way, don't spend it on black women that are doing foolishness. Mogul Mommy is in the BWE space, Black Women's Empowerment. And the things that she talks about and the things she promotes are truly empowering. She's worth some attention. Black Women Making Money is another good channel. She's worth some attention. These are people that are actually going to help you get empowered. So put your attention, which is currency, invest your attention into things that are going to help you build up. There are black men who are providing very usable content as well. Hugh Finn News is out there. And he will teach you how to interpret a stock chart by looking just at, you draw lines on the page and you figure out what direction that stock is actually going. You can figure out support and resistance. You don't need 1,000 different indicators. You need volume, and you need to know how to draw some lines on paper. That's basically it. For one example, I think I mentioned Tony Gaskins and R.C. Blakes on the previous video. They will give you a look into the mind of a Black man who's growing and getting better and doing better and learning that he has to rise to the level of being a proper husband. Now, I know that some of you kind of look at their wives and you're like, well, they didn't do that for one of us. It's very hard to tell people of African American descent by looking. And you also have to remember Africanity is all over the Americas. And sometimes people present lighter than others. But the main thing is a husband is a husband. If perchance you marry a white man, you better hope that he watches someone like these men because men will mess you up no matter who they are if they're on the tip of trying to be God. I mention them because they're basically the only two that I know of who have been married for a significant period of time and there's no scandal around them. And that brings me to the other thing. What you want to see more of, give your attention to. Not everybody is on the hypergamy divestment trip. So what do you do with those Black men who you see are growing and learning around you? I'm not saying you have to marry them. They may not be right for you. I've encountered good men who were on their journey, but it just was not the right time for either one of us, and they're just compatibility issues in terms of personality. So I didn't have to marry them. But when I catch them doing something right, I encourage them because why? My attention is currency. It spends very well. When I teach Black boys, I encourage them. I have no patience for people who are like, well, you should just drop him off somewhere and give him up because he ain't going to be this. How do you know? Even though I can't do for a young man what he needs done as a young man, it will encourage him to know there's a woman somewhere that doesn't hate him. It will encourage him to do the right thing toward women in general in the future. Because again, these boys are looking at their mothers to understand who women are. And they're looking at their teachers to understand who women are. They got to learn the opposite parent has things to teach as well. Again, I'm not saying coddle. I'm not saying worship. I'm not saying marry. I'm not talking about giving excess time, attention, money, and certainly not body. But I'm saying if you happen to still be in the Black community and you happen to want to stay, or you are called to stay, even if you don't necessarily want to, put your attention to things that are going well. And of course, what you can also choose to do is take your attention from worrying about what Black men are doing and not doing and invest in your sisters and your sisters' children if you don't have any of your own. I don't. So I have Black girls who are my students as well. And I go to bat for them as well. And there are ways that I can encourage them that I can't encourage the boys because I am a woman. So I invest in those things. Your attention is currency. Spend your currency wisely. Like I said last time, where you choose to not spend your currency is very important. The Montgomery Bus Company in the first capital of the Confederacy was made to give up its discriminating ways because Black people took their currency out of there and their bodies away from there. And as I mentioned in the previous video, Mr. Gaskins and Bishop Blanks are married today because their wives, when they saw that these men were not acting sufficiently, and made those men win them back. Your attention is currency. Sometimes withdrawing it is very powerful. And sometimes you can withdraw to the point that it ain't never coming back. I'm not talking about canceling anybody else. I'm just talking about being firm in your decisions. Most people who know me know I'll ride with you to the very last moment. But if you should run the bus off the road, I ain't getting no crane to get it up out of there. You will or you won't, but I'm not going to wait around looking. There are plenty of people that know that. Well, not plenty, because I don't deal with a lot of folks, but there's enough that know, some of them know they can't come back. Some of them, the distance they would have to traverse is too long. And then some of them doors open, but it'd be costly to enter. And this is men and women. I don't discriminate. When I find out you ain't about nothing, I spend my attention and currency elsewhere. And this is what I advise you to do as well. When it comes to the community, we are well and truly messed up. but whatever you invest in grows. So if you're frustrated with the behavior of black men, don't give attention to black men misbehaving. Do the things you need to do to protect your safety, but don't spend your time worrying about it. Just go do the things. Whatever you're going to do, if you're going to be about it, be about it. Whatever it is you're going to do, go do it. And then stop worrying about it. If you're convinced, you don't need anybody else to tell you. It's like, believe it or not, even though I'm a devout Christian, I don't spend all day long with the fundamentals of faith because there's certain things I don't so much believe anymore. I know. So I don't have to go over, like the book of Hebrews said, okay, basically, y'all still drinking milk. Can we please leave the fundamental things that you should already understand and move on to the deeper things of the faith? The author of Hebrews is like, okay, we need to now move on. I'm going over things you should already know, but I'm going to go over them again. Well, we need to move on to the meat of the word at this point. Sometimes you got the message. Stop. It's like spinning. When you know you're not supposed to be eating, I'm trying not to step on anybody's toes. You know you're not supposed to be drinking soda anymore, but you keep going back to buy it. You're spending your currency in the wrong place. Um, if you know that a particular restaurant food poisons people 1/4 of the time, why are you going back to buy from them again? With that kind of Russian roulette, every quarter out of every dollar you spending is getting you, it's threatening to put you in the hospital. Well, you probably wouldn't do that because you're an intelligent person. So you need to also apply that to what you put up with and not you blood up in your ears, put your ears in what you spend your time with and the people you spend your time with. You don't fund what poisons you. So you don't give your attention to what poisons you. Understand that sometimes you gotta do research, go in and listen to it with the idea of understanding what's going on. I'm not saying you don't do that, but I'm like this. I'm gonna listen to you one time. I'm gonna find your channel. Somebody tell me about it. You go listen to this, or I'll find somebody who has an interesting title. I'm gonna sit there and about 5 minutes and figure out what they're on. And then if I'm not going with that, do not recommend. And if I'm on Facebook, block to the block. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna build that algorithm. Literally, your attention is currency because you're helping people work with the algorithm and so they can get monetized and then run ads online. Literally, your attention is currency. Spend your attention where you get a result, where your investment is returned in some way. Your attention is currency. And recognize people no matter who they are when they are doing right, because what you invest in grows and what you don't invest in tends to die. You don't have to cancel anything. Black women are some of the biggest consumers, if not the statistically biggest consumers in the country. We ain't got to cancel nothing, but just stop spending our money and paying attention to it. And like I said, a boycott is different than cancel culture. A boycott says this is a specific reason that we're not dealing with you, and we're not going to deal with you until you fix this. But once you fix this, once you restore, once you repair, once you do the right thing, then we can go on to the future and do some things to build together. You know that practically any business in this country that's consumer facing on a regular retail level, we as Black women alone, because most people's profit margins are about 5 to 7%, and we're about that much the US population, that we alone could go in and be like, oh, we're going to need you to fix this, or you're not going to see any more of our dollars. Bye. Stay in your feminine. You can just say bye and close that wallet. We can do that on anything. You're not happy with your life in the Black community. Your church isn't doing enough. Close that wallet and see if your church get it together. A lot of Black women in church. I just give you this one example. Do you know how much money the last time I looked, Black churches were moving through the economy every single year? $500 million a week. Now, these numbers probably need to be looked at again because of COVID. I'm gonna say it again. $500 million a week. You know how much that is in 52 weeks? $26 billion a year. We're going from Black churches into banks. If you don't think the church is treating you right, if I happen to be, because I'm not going to go over this ground again, I already did a video about a certain pastor who got up, before we even deal with his comments about black women, he got up and within the first 26 minutes said that God was the father, but also the breasted one, and that he injected his seed into the womb of the earth to make man. You know how I would, if I were a black woman in that church, you know how I would get him to at least pretend like he respects the God of the Bible? You just close that wallet, black woman. And then not only you close the wallet, you go do something else. Your attention is currency. And because of the situation with black men, it's hard for them to do without it because I already explained all the other stuff that's going on. Seriously, for those who are serious about it, when we stop giving attention and time and energy and body to the bad ones, I guarantee you there will be a change in the culture. Now, is this something that should be our burden to have to do? No. And I'm not necessarily saying that we need to put our attention in doing that. If you, like I said, if you need to leave, just leave. And even if you don't need to leave, that's just too much work. But for your own personal, you just don't deal with bad men as much as you're able to do it. When you just know things are wrong, you know things that are running are wrong, you just know the attitude is wrong, say hi, stay by, stay cordial, and keep moving. That's what you do because you don't spend your money and your attention on what does not serve you. And that was actually the original divestment message, which I have respect for. You stop putting your energy and your money and your time and definitely your body in what does not give you a return that also benefits you. You just stop. You just stop. Like this video. Thank you for listening. Have a good day now. Goodbye.